what happens when two ancient Greek gods clash over the mastery of nature itself. Imagine waves as tall as mountains crashing against the shores of Greece, while a goddess stands resolute against their fury. This is the tale of how Athena, goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare, proved her divine might against Poseidon, the temperamental ruler of the seas. In the golden age of ancient Greece, when gods walked freely among mortals, the realms of divine power were clearly defined. Poseidon commanded the vast oceans, his trident stirring up storms that could shatter coastlines. Athena, born from Zeus's head, fully grown and armed, governed wisdom, strategic warfare, and the practical arts of civilization. Yet sometimes, even the most established boundaries between divine powers were tested. The conflict began when sailors and coastal dwellers increasingly turned to Athena for protection during their maritime ventures. They had grown weary of Poseidon's unpredictable nature, his tendency to wreck ships on a whim, and his storms that devoured entire fleets. These mortals recognized that Athena's gift of wisdom might offer a safer passage across the treacherous seas than Poseidon's volatile favors. Poseidon, his pride wounded by this shift in mortal allegiance, unleashed his fury upon the Mediterranean. Waves rose like liquid mountains, storms darkened skies that had never known such darkness, and the seas churned with unprecedented violence. His message was clear. No other deity, not even Zeus's favorite daughter, could challenge his dominion over the waters. Athena watched from Mount Olympus as coastal cities suffered and trade routes became impassable. Unlike her impulsive uncle, she understood that true power lay not in destruction, but in mastery and control. She knew she must act, not just to protect her mortal followers, but to demonstrate that wisdom could tame even the wildest forces of nature. One stormy morning, Athena descended to Cape Saunian, where one of her most sacred temples stood overlooking Poseidon's domain. The sea god had whipped the waters into a frenzy, creating waves that threatened to devour the very cliffs upon which her temple was built. As lightning split the sky and thunder shook the earth, Athena raised her spear. Instead of meeting force with force, Athena employed her legendary strategic mind. She began by understanding the patterns within Poseidon's chaos, the rhythms hidden in the storm's rage. With each wave that crashed against the cliffs, she learned more about the nature of the sea itself. This was not just a battle of power, but a lesson in the superiority of wisdom over raw strength. Drawing upon her divine knowledge, Athena started to impose order upon chaos. She moved her spear in precise patterns, each gesture calculated to affect the water's movement. Gradually, the massive waves began to respond to her influence. Where Poseidon created turbulence, Athena introduced harmony. The water's surface, which had been a violent maelstrom moments before, slowly transformed into organized patterns. Poseidon, sensing the change in his domain, emerged from the depths in a chariot pulled by magnificent hippocampi. His expression betrayed both anger and disbelief as he watched Athena tame his wild seas. He raised his trident, attempting to reassert his dominion, but found that Athena's calculated influence could not be easily undone. The goddess demonstrated that true mastery comes not from the ability to create chaos, but from the wisdom to understand and guide natural forces. Under her influence, the waves began to dance in rhythmic patterns, creating a display of both power and beauty. Ships that had been tossing helplessly in the storm found themselves guided safely to harbor by these newly organized currents. This display of divine wisdom over brute force drew the attention of the other Olympians. Zeus himself appeared in the storm clouds above, observing the contest between his daughter and his brother. Even he had not expected Athena to demonstrate such masterful control over another god's domain. Poseidon, though his pride was wounded, could not deny the elegance of Athena's solution. She had not sought to strip him of his power over the seas, but had instead shown how wisdom could work in harmony with natural forces. This lesson resonated deeply with the ancient Greeks, who saw in it a reflection of their own struggles to build civilization in harmony with nature's power. The aftermath of this divine demonstration changed how mortals viewed their relationship with the sea. They learned that respect for Poseidon's power, combined with Athena's wisdom, offered the best protection during maritime ventures. Sailors began to pray to both deities, seeking Poseidon's favor for calm waters, while asking Athena for the wisdom to navigate them safely. This story, passed down through generations, teaches us that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to understand and guide. It reminds us that even the most turbulent forces in our lives can be mastered through knowledge, strategy, and patient understanding. Just as Athena proved that wisdom could calm the mightiest waves, we too can face our challenges not with brute force, but with thoughtful determination and strategic thinking. The temples at Cape Saunian still stand today, monuments to both Athena and Poseidon, reminding visitors of this ancient lesson in the triumph of wisdom over chaos. In their weathered columns, we can still feel the echo of that divine contest, where a goddess of wisdom proved that understanding nature's power is greater than merely wielding it. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to wield the power of lightning, command the seas, or rule the underworld? For the ancient Greeks, these weren't just flights of fancy. They were the very real powers of their gods and goddesses, beings who controlled every aspect of their world and still captivate our imagination today. Before there were gods, there was chaos. From this primordial void emerged the first divine beings, including Gaia, Mother Earth herself, and Uranos, the sky. Their children, the Titans, ruled the world until a new generation of gods, led by Zeus, rose to challenge them in an epic war that shook the foundations of the cosmos. After their victory, Zeus and his siblings divided the world among themselves. Zeus claimed the heavens and became the king of gods, wielding his mighty thunderbolt to maintain order. His brother Poseidon took dominion over the seas, commanding storms and earthquakes with his legendary trident. The third brother, Hades, was given the underworld, where he ruled over the souls of the departed. But the Olympian pantheon was far more than just these three powerful brothers. Hera, Zeus's wife and queen, became the guardian of marriage and childbirth, though she spent much of her time dealing with her husband's countless affairs. Athena, who sprang fully grown from Zeus's head, embodied wisdom and strategic warfare, becoming the patron goddess of Athens and a champion of heroes. Apollo and Artemis, the divine twins, brought light and darkness to the world. Apollo drove the sun chariot across the sky and presided over music, prophecy, and healing. His sister Artemis, the skilled huntress, protected the wilderness and its creatures while racing through forests with her silver bow. Aphrodite, born from the sea foam, wielded power perhaps greater than any weapon, love itself. Her beauty sparked wars and toppled kingdoms, while her son Eros shot golden arrows that made even the mighty Zeus fall helplessly in love with mortals. Ares, the god of war, reveled in battle and bloodshed, while Hephaestus, the divine craftsman, created wonders in his volcanic forge, including Zeus's thunderbolts and Achilles' famous armor. Hermes, the swift messenger of the gods, guided travelers and souls alike with his winged sandals, while also moonlighting as the patron of merchants and thieves. These gods were far from perfect. They displayed very human flaws: jealousy, pride, anger, and desire. Zeus's numerous affairs drove Hera to fits of vengeful rage. Apollo's pride led him to flay alive a satyr who dared challenge him to a musical contest. Aphrodite's vanity sparked the Trojan War when she claimed to be the most beautiful goddess. The gods frequently meddled in human affairs, sometimes helping, sometimes hindering. They blessed their favorites with extraordinary gifts and cursed their enemies with terrible fates. Athena guided Odysseus home from Troy, while Poseidon tried to destroy him. Apollo granted Cassandra the gift of prophecy, but cursed her so no one would believe her predictions. Their temples dotted the ancient landscape, from the magnificent Parthenon in Athens to the Oracle of Delphi, where Apollo's priestess delivered mysterious prophecies. People offered sacrifices, held festivals, and competed in athletic games to honor these divine beings, believing their favor could mean the difference between prosperity and ruin. The influence of these gods extends far beyond ancient Greece. Their stories have inspired countless works of art, from Renaissance paintings to modern novels and blockbuster movies. Their names grace our planets, chemical elements, and spacecraft. Their symbols and attributes still appear in corporate logos and government seals. But perhaps most importantly, these gods and goddesses represent timeless aspects of human nature and experience. Zeus represents authority and justice, but also the corruption of power. Aphrodite embodies love's ability to create or destroy. Athena shows how wisdom and strength can coexist. Their stories help us understand our own struggles with power, love, destiny, and mortality. The Greek gods remind us that even immortal beings aren't immune to the complexities of existence. They teach us that great power comes with great responsibility and often great temptation. Their tales warn us about the dangers of hubris while celebrating the potential for greatness in both divine and human nature. Today, while we may not worship at their temples or offer them sacrifices, the Greek gods and goddesses continue to reign in our cultural imagination. Their stories still resonate because they reflect universal truths about power, family, love, and the eternal struggle between order and chaos. In their strengths and flaws, their triumphs and failures, we see reflections of our own humanity, magnified to divine proportions. These Olympian gods, with their all-too-human personalities and superhuman powers, remain powerful symbols of the forces that shape our lives and our world. Their legacy lives on, reminding us that the stories we tell about divine beings often reveal profound truths about ourselves. What lengths would you go to protect your love and kingdom? In ancient Greece, one remarkable queen's answer to this question became legendary, as she employed wit and wisdom to outmaneuver an army of suitors who threatened everything she held dear. In the grand palace of Ithaca, Queen Penelope faced a crisis that would test both her loyalty and cleverness. Her husband, the legendary King Odysseus, had been absent for nearly 20 years. First, he'd gone to fight in the Trojan War, and then, due to the gods' interference, his journey home became an epic odyssey of its own. While tales of his adventures spread across the Mediterranean, Penelope's own story of resilience unfolded within the walls of their palace. As years passed without word from Odysseus, noble families from across Greece became convinced the king must surely be dead. More than 100 suitors descended upon Ithaca, each hoping to marry Penelope and claim the throne. These men weren't merely persistent, they were parasites, making themselves at home in the palace, feasting daily on the kingdom's resources and depleting the royal wealth that rightfully belonged to Penelope's son, Telemachus. But Penelope, blessed with intelligence that rivaled her husband's legendary cunning, refused to be forced into a marriage she didn't want. Yet she couldn't simply reject the suitors outright. Doing so might provoke them into violence. endangering both her life and her son's claim to the throne. She needed a strategy that would buy her time while maintaining the delicate balance of power. That's when Penelope devised one of the most brilliant deceptions in Greek mythology. She announced to the suitors that she would choose a new husband, but only after she completed weaving a funeral shroud for Odysseus's elderly father, Laertes. This was a perfectly reasonable request. Preparing burial clothes for family members was a traditional duty of Greek noblewomen. The suitors could hardly object to such a pious act without revealing their true, dishonorable intentions. What the suitors didn't know was that Penelope had transformed this simple task into an ingenious trick. Each day, she would sit at her loom in full view of the palace, diligently weaving the elaborate burial shroud. But each night, by the light of torches, she would secretly unravel her day's work. This way, the shroud never neared completion, and Penelope kept her unwanted suitors at bay. For 3 years, this clever deception continued. While the suitors grew increasingly frustrated, none suspected the truth behind the never-ending weaving project. Penelope's hands worked tirelessly, weaving by day, unraveling by night, while her mind remained fixed on her beloved Odysseus, hoping against hope for his return. But as with many secrets in ancient Greece, the truth eventually came to light. One of Penelope's servants, perhaps seeking favor with the suitors, revealed her mistress's nightly unraveling. The suitors were furious at being outwitted by a woman, and their demands for her to choose a husband grew more aggressive. Yet even when her clever plan was discovered, Penelope remained steadfast. She had bought precious time, 3 years of maintaining her independence and protecting her son's inheritance. Her intelligence and determination had proven that she was every bit as resourceful as her famous husband. This tale resonates deeply with themes that remain relevant today. It speaks to the power of intellectual resistance against brute force, the strength found in quiet determination, and the importance of staying true to one's principles even when faced with overwhelming pressure. Penelope's weaving trick demonstrates how creativity and wit can be powerful weapons against those who rely solely on wealth and status. The story also challenges traditional gender roles in ancient Greek society. While the suitors attempted to claim power through aggressive pursuit and intimidation, Penelope maintained control through cunning and peaceful resistance. Her loom became both a symbol of traditional feminine duties and a tool of sophisticated political maneuvering. In Greek art and literature, Penelope's weaving has become a powerful metaphor for loyalty, patience, and clever resistance. Countless ancient vases of civilization, and her story has inspired artists and gods for over 2 millennia. Wild creatures roam free. The phrase